Hey guys, tonight we are leaving the cities and the towns behind, and we're heading out onto the quiet country roads of 19th century Germany. We're going to join a family whose home has wheels, a family that carries a whole world of stories and magic with them wherever they go. You can almost hear the gentle clopping of a horse's hooves, the slow, rhythmic creak of wagon wheels, and smell the wonderful, unique perfume of old wood, oil paint, and adventure. We are going to experience the gentle, wandering life of a family of puppeteers. Are you ready in your warm bed? I hope you're all tucked in and feeling peaceful. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always so wonderful to see where you all are listening from. So feel free to leave your city or country and the local time in the comments. It makes our quiet little community feel connected across the globe. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world moves at the gentle, steady pace of a strong, patient horse named Frida. You are Emil, and your home is a beautiful, brightly painted wooden wagon, a house with wheels that is your entire universe. The first sensation of any day is the slow, rhythmic, swaying motion of the wagon as it makes its way along the dusty country lanes of the German countryside. It is a feeling so constant, so familiar that you barely notice it anymore. It is simply the feeling of home. The only sounds are the gentle, rhythmic clop, clop, clop of Frida's hooves on the hard, packed earth, the steady, musical creak of the wagon's great wooden wheels, and the soft singing of your father, who sits at the front, holding the reins. He sings old folk songs, tales of lost loves and brave heroes, his voice a low, pleasant rumble that is a constant, comforting soundtrack to your life. Your wagon is a magnificent creation. The outside is painted a deep, cheerful blue, with scrolling designs of vines and flowers in red and yellow. On the sides, your mother has painted beautiful, vivid scenes from your puppet shows. A brave prince fighting a fierce green dragon, a beautiful princess letting down her long golden hair from a castle tower. Your wagon is a storybook on wheels. The inside is a marvel of cozy, clever design. It is a single, long room, but it contains everything your family needs. There are 2 small bunks with colorful patchwork quilts built into one wall. A tiny iron stove sits in a corner, its chimney poking neatly through the roof. The wooden chests that hold your clothes and your mother's sewing supplies also serve as benches to sit on. Every object has its place, and every space has a purpose. The air inside smells wonderful. It smells of the seasoned pinewood the wagon is built from, of your mother's oil paints, of the beeswax she uses to polish the wood, and of the faint, sweet scent of hay that clings to your blankets. Your family treats the wagon not as an object, but as a member of the family itself. You sometimes leave a small wildflower on the dashboard as a gift for the wagon's kobold, its house spirit. To keep it safe and sturdy on the long roads, your family is a small, self-contained unit. There is your papa, Stefan. He is a man with a barrel chest and a voice that can boom like thunder during a performance, but his hands are gentle and his eyes are kind. He is the master puppeteer, the one who brings the stories to life. Then there is your mama, Lena. She is the artist. Her hands are rarely still. She is the one who carves the puppets' expressive faces from blocks of linden wood, who paints their cheeks and eyes, and who sews their intricate, beautiful costumes from scraps of silk and velvet. And then there is you. You are the apprentice, learning the family trade, your head filled with the stories, and your hands just beginning to learn the skills. Your life is part of a great cultural movement, though you do not know it. It is the era of German Romanticism. Far away in the cities, great thinkers and writers like the brothers Grimm are collecting the folk tales and legends of your country, believing that the true soul of a nation is found in its oldest stories. You and your family are the humble, traveling foot soldiers of this movement. You carry these same fairy tales of brave princes, of clever peasant boys, of dark, enchanted forests, from one small village to the next, keeping them alive not in books, but on your small, portable puppet stage. The most important members of your family, however, are kept in the largest, most beautiful wooden chest at the back of the wagon. You lift the heavy, curved lid to look at them now. They are the puppets, lying nestled in soft, clean straw, sleeping until it is time for them to perform. They are not dolls to you. They are a silent wooden family, each with their own distinct personality. There is the beautiful Princess Amalia, with her golden hair made from the finest silk thread and her dress of blue velvet. There is the wicked witch, Hexie, with her long crooked nose and her cunning painted smile. There is the great green dragon, with its fearsome, hinged jaw and its scales made from shimmering green-painted leather. And, of course, there is Kasperle. He is the hero of so many of the stories, the clever, funny, and brave puppet with his pointed red cap and his long, comical nose. Folklorists and performance historians of the future will debate the exact origins of the character of Kasperle, arguing whether he is a German cousin of the Italian Pulcinella or the English Mr. Punch, or if his roots go even deeper into native German folk traditions. You do not know his history, you only know that he is your favorite. He is the one who always outsmarts the witch and makes the children in the audience laugh the loudest. You run your hand gently over the sleeping puppets. They are your friends, your other family. You have grown up with them. You know the story of each of them. As you look at them, you notice something is wrong. You pick up the puppet of Prince Siegfried, the hero who slays the dragon. He is a handsome puppet with a determined jaw and a noble expression. But the small, beautifully carved wooden sword he holds in his hand, it has a crack, a fine hairline crack running right through the blade. It must have happened during the last performance, when he was fighting the dragon with such vigor. You carefully lift the prince from the chest and take him to the front of the wagon, where your father is driving. "Papa," you say, your voice full of concern, "Siegfried's sword is broken." Your father pulls gently on the reins, bringing Frida the horse to a slow walk. He takes the puppet from you and examines the tiny sword. He runs his thumb over the fine crack in the wood. He nods, his face serious. "A hero cannot go into battle with a broken sword. It would not be right." Thank you for seeing this, Emil, he says, his voice a low rumble. You have a good eye. You are learning to care for the troupe. He looks ahead at the winding country road. Tonight, when we make camp by the stream ahead, our first task will be to mend this. A prince must have a strong blade. You take the puppet back and place him carefully on the seat, a patient in need of care. You feel a sense of pride. You have spotted a problem and you will help to fix it. This is your work. This is your life. The slow, gentle rocking of the wagon, the sound of your father's singing, the scent of the pine forest, and the quiet, constant duty of caring for your small, wooden, magical family. As the afternoon sun begins to dip towards the treetops, your father spots the place he has been looking for. It is a small, sheltered clearing just off the road, a patch of soft green grass beside a gently meandering stream. A perfect place to make camp for the night. He pulls gently on Frida's reins, guiding the horse and the wagon off the main track and into the clearing. The rhythmic clop-clop and the creaking of the wheels cease, and the sudden silence is filled only by the gentle murmur of the stream and the sound of the wind in the high branches of the pine trees. The evening routine begins, a familiar and comforting dance. Your father unharnesses Frida, leads her to the stream for a long drink, and then tethers her where she can graze on the sweet grass. Your mother opens up the back of the wagon and begins to prepare a simple supper. And your first job is to gather firewood. You take a small hatchet and a burlap sack and venture into the edge of the woods, collecting dry, fallen branches and pine cones. Soon you have a small, cheerful campfire, crackling in a ring of stones your family has used on previous journeys. Through this very spot, your mother cooks a simple, hearty stew of potatoes, onions, and smoked sausage in a black iron pot suspended over the flames. The three of you eat your supper sitting on a fallen log, watching the fireflies begin to light up in the deepening twilight. The stew is warm and delicious, and the feeling of stillness, of being firmly rooted to the earth after a long day of gentle swaying, is deeply peaceful. When the meal is over and the dishes are cleaned in the cold, clear water of the stream, the evening's main event begins. It is time for the surgery. Your father goes to a special, locked compartment under his bunk and retrieves a small wooden box. This is his repair kit. He lays a clean linen cloth on an overturned crate, creating a small operating table, and then you carefully bring him the patient, the Prince Siegfried puppet. Your father lays the puppet gently on the cloth. In the flickering firelight, the puppet's painted face looks noble and serious, as if he is aware of the gravity of the situation. Your father examines the tiny wooden sword again, running his thumb over the fine crack in its blade. A clean break, he says, nodding to himself. It will mend well, but it needs the right medicine. He opens his repair kit. Inside are not medicines for people, but for wood. Small knives, tiny files, blocks of beeswax, and a small, heavy iron pot with another, smaller pot that fits inside it, like a miniature double boiler. From a small leather pouch, he takes out a few thin, amber-colored, translucent flakes. They look like pieces of hardened honey. This is hide glue, Emil, he explains, showing you the flakes. The strongest magic for mending wood. It is made from the skin of an animal, so it understands the nature of things that were once living. It holds with a strength that new chemical glues will never know. He places the flakes in the small inner pot with a little water from your flask. He then places this pot inside the larger one, which he also fills with water, and sets the whole contraption at the very edge of the campfire, where the heat from the embers is gentle. As the water heats, the amber flakes begin to soften and dissolve, and a thick, pungent, and strangely sweet smell fills the air. He stirs the mixture with a small stick until it becomes a thick, sticky, golden brown liquid. Now he turns his attention back to the sword. With the tip of a very fine knife, he carefully applies a tiny, single drop of the hot, sticky glue to each side of the clean crack in the wooden blade. Then, with an incredibly steady hand, he presses the two halves of the blade together, aligning them perfectly. A tiny bead of excess glue squeezes out, which he wipes away with a cloth. Now, the binding, he says, turning to you. This is a job for your small, nimble fingers. He hands you a spool of fine but very strong linen thread. You must wrap the blade tightly from the hilt to the tip and back again. Not so tight that it warps the wood, but tight enough that it holds the mend perfectly straight while the glue sets its bones. You take the thread and begin your delicate work. Your fingers carefully wrap the thread around the tiny sword over and over again, creating a tight, neat binding. You are completely focused, your tongue stuck out of the corner of your mouth in concentration. As you work, your father watches you, a look of quiet approval on his face. He speaks softly, almost to himself. A hero needs his sword. It is not just a piece of wood, Emil. It is his courage.
Siegfried.
Siegfried knows when his sword is weak. Performance theorists and historians of the future will debate the psychological relationship between a puppeteer and their puppet, whether it is merely a tool or something more. But for your father, there is no debate. He speaks of the puppets as if they are members of his troupe, actors with their own feelings, their own pride. The bond is real and deeply empathetic. When the wrapping is complete, you tie off the thread with a tiny, secure knot. The repair is done. Your father inspects your work and nods. Good, he says, very good. Now he must rest and heal. He places the puppet carefully on a clean, dry spot on the floor of the wagon, near the residual warmth of the small stove, where the glue will cure slowly and strongly through the night. The work of the evening is done. The fire has burned down to a bed of glowing, red embers. The stars are out now, a brilliant, breathtaking canopy of diamonds scattered across the black velvet of the sky. The forest around you is a wall of deep, mysterious darkness. Before you all turn in for the night, your father performs one last ritual. He takes one of the small enclosed lanterns, lights its candle, and places it on top of the large closed puppet chest inside the wagon. The ghost light, he whispers to you. It is an old tradition from the big city theaters. You must always leave a single light burning on an empty stage. Some say it is to keep the ghosts of old actors company, but I think it is to keep the stories themselves from getting lonely in the dark. You climb into your bunk in the wagon. The familiar, gentle rocking is gone, replaced by the solid, unmoving stillness of the earth beneath you. Through the small open window, you can hear the gentle murmur of the stream and the soft crackle of the last embers of the fire. You can see the faint, warm glow of the ghost light, standing guard over Prince Siegfried and the other sleeping puppets. You feel a deep sense of peace. The hero's sword is mending. The stories are safe, and you, a young apprentice, have played your small, important part in the quiet, gentle magic of your family's life. You wake to the gentle sound of the nearby stream and the cheerful, insistent chirping of a robin. The morning sun is filtering through the high branches of the pine trees, painting the clearing in soft, dappled light. The air is cool, clean, and smells of dew-damp grass and the last faint, smoky remnants of your campfire. The first thing you do, even before putting on your shoes, is scramble to the back of the wagon to check on your patient. You find the Prince Siegfried puppet lying where your father left him, near the gentle warmth of the stove. You pick him up carefully. The linen thread is still wrapped tightly around the tiny wooden sword. With a feather-light touch, you begin to unwind it. Round and round, the thread comes away until the blade is revealed. You hold your breath and gently test the mend with your thumb. It is solid. The crack has vanished, replaced by a nearly invisible seam. The hide glue has worked its magic. The hero's courage is restored. You place the prince back in his straw bed in the puppet chest, a quiet feeling of pride and satisfaction warming you from the inside out. After a simple breakfast of leftover stew and fresh water from the stream, the family packs up the campsite. Every pot, every blanket, every tool is returned to its designated place within the cozy, clever confines of the wagon. Your father harnesses the patient. Frida, you give the wagon's spirit a final, thankful pat, and with a soft jingle of the harness and a familiar, gentle creak, your small, rolling home is once again on its way. You travel for most of the morning, moving slowly through the beautiful, rolling countryside. You sit beside your father on the driver's bench, watching the landscape unfold. You pass by small, hard-working farms, their fields a patchwork of green and gold. You wave to farmers who stop their work to watch you pass, your brightly painted wagon a welcome splash of color and novelty in their familiar world. By midday, you arrive at your destination. It is a small, picturesque village nestled in a shallow valley, a cluster of half-timbered houses with steep, tiled roofs, all gathered around a simple stone church with a tall, pointed steeple. Your father steers Frida towards the largest building in the village square, the Gasthaus Zum Goldenen Hirsch, the Golden Stag Inn. The village Gasthaus, is more than just a place for travelers to find a room. It is the heart of the village, its central social hub. It is where the local men gather after a day's work for a stein of beer, where news from the outside world is exchanged, and where important village business is conducted for a traveling family like yours. It is the first and most important stop. It is where you will ask for permission to perform your show. and where you will find your audience. Your father brings the wagon to a halt in the inn's cobblestoned courtyard. The innkeeper, a stout, red-faced man named Herr Schmidt, comes out to greet you. Wiping his hands on his apron, he recognizes your father from previous years, and his face breaks into a wide, welcoming smile. The two men shake hands, and after a bit of friendly negotiation, a deal is struck. Your family will put on a performance of Prince Siegfried and the Dragon in the courtyard that evening. In exchange, you will receive a hot meal and permission to sleep in the inn's clean, dry barn for the night. While your father sees to the horse, and your mother begins to prepare the small, portable puppet stage, you are given a simple task. You sit at a small table in the corner of the inn's main room, the Gaststube, polishing a basket of apples from a local farm until the red skins shine. The room is dark and cool, its low-beamed ceiling stained dark, with 100 years of wood smoke. It smells of beer, of sawdust, and of roasting meat. You watch the life of the inn unfold. A few local farmers are at the bar, talking in low voices. At a large, round table in the center of the room, the Stammtisch, a group of the village's most important men, the blacksmith, the baker, the mayor are engaged in a serious game of cards. You know that this table is reserved, a place of honor for the regulars, and you would never dream of sitting there. The old innkeeper, Herr Schmidt, having finished his business with your father, ambles over to your table. He has a kind, gentle face, and eyes that crinkle at the corners when he smiles. "Ah, young Emil," he says, "making the apples shine for the show tonight, are you?" You nod shyly. He pulls up a chair and sits with you for a moment. He asks about your travels, about the stories you tell with your puppets. "The dragon, eh?" he says with a chuckle. "A good story. A brave prince is always good, but do you ever tell the story of the clever fox?" You shake your head. You have a wolf puppet in your chest, but you do not have a fox. "Ah, a shame," the innkeeper says, leaning forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Because the cleverest fox of all once lived in this very forest. It is an old story, one my grandmother used to tell me." And as you sit there, polishing your apples, the old innkeeper begins to tell you the tale folklorists and literary scholars of the future will debate the complex process of oral transmission, how stories shift and change and take on local color as they are passed from one storyteller to the next. And you, in this moment, are a part of that ancient, living process. The innkeeper tells you of a grumpy, rich baron who owned all the land and demanded all the chickens from the local villagers as tax. But there was a clever fox, he says, who felt sorry for the poor villagers. The fox crept into the baron's castle one night, and using nothing but his wits, he tricked the baron's foolish guards and stole back all the chickens, returning them to the villagers before morning. It is a simple tale, a classic trickster story. But the way Herr Schmidt tells it, his voice rising and falling, his eyes twinkling with mischief, it comes alive. He makes the fox seem so clever, so charming, so heroic in his own small way. When he finishes the story, he winks at you. A good story, no better than a prince with a sword, I think. Sometimes it is better to be clever than to be strong. He gets up and goes back to his work behind the bar, leaving you sitting at the table, an apple half polished in your hand. But your mind is no longer on your task. It is buzzing with the story you have just heard. A clever fox, a hero who fights not with the sword, but with his wits. You think of the puppets in your family's chest, the noble prince, the beautiful princess, the evil witch, the fierce dragon. There is no one like the clever fox in your entire troupe. You look across the room where your mother is now sitting, carefully restringing the princess puppet. You look at her, a new, bold, and exciting idea taking shape in your mind. The innkeeper's story has not just been a pleasant way to pass the afternoon. It has been a gift, a seed of inspiration, and you know with a sudden, joyful certainty what you must do with it. You sit for a moment, the half-polished apple forgotten in your hand, your mind completely captivated by the innkeeper's story. A clever fox who tricks a greedy baron, a hero who uses his wits instead of a sword. It is a different kind of story from the epic tales of princes and dragons that make up most of your family's repertoire. It is smaller, funnier, and feels somehow more real, more connected to the lives of the farmers and villagers you meet every day. A new idea, bright and bold, takes root in your mind. You get up from your table and walk over to where your mother, Lena, is sitting, carefully restitching a seam on the princess's velvet gown. You stand quietly by her side until she finishes her stitch and looks up at you. "Mama," you say, your voice a low, excited whisper. "The innkeeper just told me the most wonderful story." You tell her the tale of the clever fox and the stolen chickens, trying your best to imitate the innkeeper's mischievous tone, to capture the twinkle in his eye. As you speak, you see a familiar light dawn in your mother's eyes. It is the same look of inspiration she gets when she sees a beautiful piece of fabric or a perfectly grained piece of wood. It is the look of an artist seeing a new possibility. When you finish your story, you take a deep breath and ask the question that has been burning in your mind. "Mama, do you think... could we make a fox puppet? Could we tell his story tonight?" Your mother puts down her sewing. She looks at you, then her gaze drifts towards the courtyard outside, where your father is checking the little stage. She looks back at you, and a slow, beautiful smile spreads across her face. "A clever fox," she says thoughtfully. "I like that very much, Emil. It is a story with a good heart." She stands up. "And yes, I think we can, but we must be quick. The sun is already past its highest point." This is all you need to hear. A thrill of pure, creative joy runs through you. Your father is the master puppeteer, the storyteller, but your mother is the creator, the one who gives the characters their form. And she has invited you to create with her. She leads you out to the wagon, to the large wooden chest, where she keeps her own personal tools and materials. She retrieves her special carving box. Inside, nestled in soft felt, are her own carving knives, smaller and more delicate than your father's tools, their blades honed to a razor's sharpness. She then rummages in a sack of wood blocks that you keep for repairs and new creations. This is a craft rooted in the forests you travel through. The tradition of wood carving in the German countryside is ancient and proud, a skill passed down through generations, a way of bringing the spirit of the forest to life. She selects a small, clean, rectangular block of pale, creamy white linden wood. "This one," she says, handing it to you, "this one has a fox hiding inside it. Can you feel it?" You take the block of wood. It is smooth and light. This is what your mother has always taught you about carving. You do not impose a shape on the wood, you listen to it. You study its grain, its weight, its character, and you find the shape that is already sleeping inside it. Your job as a carver is not to create from nothing, but to release the spirit that is already there. The two of you return to your quiet corner of the inn's common room. You spread a leather cloth on the table to catch the wood shavings, and your mother lays out her delicate knives. "Now," she says, handing you a small, very sharp whittling knife, "we will do this together. You have a good hand, Emil, a steady hand. You will make the first cuts. This is a great honor." Your mother guides you, showing you how to hold the knife, how to brace the wood. "We start with the snout," she instructs, "the longest part. We must give him room for his clever thoughts." You make the first cut. The sharp blade sinks into the soft linden wood with a soft, satisfying shh. A small, pale, curly shaving of wood falls onto the leather cloth. You make another cut, and another. You are not just randomly whittling. You are following your mother's guidance, making a series of precise stop cuts to define the basic planes of the fox's long, pointed face. As you work, you can feel the fox beginning to emerge from the block. The wood that was an anonymous rectangle just a few minutes ago now has a snout, a forehead, the suggestion of two pointed ears. Your mother takes over for the more difficult parts, her own knife moving with a speed and grace that still fills you with awe. She carves the delicate, curving shape of the jaw. She hollows out the ears. Then she hands the wood back to you. "Now, the eyes," she says. "Remember what the story said. He is not evil, he is clever. His eyes must be bright and full of mischief." You use the very tip of your finest knife to carve the two small, almond-shaped eyes. You give them a slight tilt, an expression that is intelligent and amused. You carve the small, smiling mouth, a subtle curve that is more of a smirk than a grin. You are giving him his personality. You think about the role of trickster figures like the fox in the old stories. Cultural anthropologists of the future will debate their function in peasant societies, whether they are simple comic relief or a more complex symbol of the powerless outwitting the powerful. But for you, in this moment, this fox is a hero, a champion of the common folk, and you try to put all of that cleverness and charm into his small wooden face. You and your mother pass the small block of wood back and forth for the next hour. You do the broader shaping, and she performs the fine, detailed work. It is a silent, seamless collaboration, a dance of two pairs of hands and two knives, both working to release the same character from the wood. The pile of pale, fragrant wood shavings on the leather cloth grows larger. Finally, it is done. Your mother makes the last delicate cut, carving the hint of whiskers on his snout, and then she blows the last of the wood dust away. She holds the finished piece up. It is no longer a block of wood, it is a fox's head, small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, but so full of life and character it seems as if it might wink at you. The linden wood is carved so smoothly, it glows in the dim light of the inn. "There he is," your mother says softly, a deep satisfaction in her voice. "Herr Schmidt's clever fox." She hands him to you. You hold him in your hand, feeling the smoothness of the wood, the sharpness of his pointed ears, the clever curve of his smile. You have helped to create him. You remember mending Prince Siegfried's sword last night. That was a work of preservation, of caring for the old stories. But this is different. This is the magic of creation, of bringing a new story, a new character, into your family's world. The fox puppet is not yet complete. Of course, he needs a body and a fine bushy tail, and he needs a coat of handsome, reddish-brown paint. That is work for another day. But his head, his face, his personality, it is all here, born from a block of linden wood, a story told by an old innkeeper, and a quiet, wonderful afternoon of shared work with your mother. The newest member of your wooden troupe is ready and waiting for his moment in the spotlight. You show the newly carved fox head to your father. He stops his work and takes the small piece of linden wood from you, turning it over and over in his large, capable hands. He examines the mischievous tilt of the eyes you carved, the clever curve of the smile. A slow, wide grin spreads across his own face. "Ah, Lena," he says to your mother, "and you, Emil. You have not just carved a fox, you have captured one." He looks at you, his eyes full of pride. The innkeeper's story has found a worthy face. We cannot let such a fine new actor sleep in the chest tonight. We must let him make his debut. And just like that, the plan for the evening changes. The story of Prince Siegfried and the dragon is put aside for another time. Tonight, the village will see the premiere of a brand new show, The Clever Fox of the Golden Stag Inn. The three of you set to work with a new, excited energy. A new puppet must be made stage ready. In only a few hours. Your mother, with her sewing basket and her bag of fabric scraps, becomes a whirlwind of quiet efficiency. She finds a piece of sturdy, russet-colored felt for the body and a scrap of white linen for his chest. She quickly snips and sews a simple, flexible body for the fox. For the tail, the most important part, she takes a piece of an old, furry winter scarf and, with a few clever stitches, creates a magnificent, bushy tail that is almost as big as the puppet itself. While she sews, you are given the important task of painting the fox's head. You mix the water-based paints, creating the perfect reddish-brown color. With a very fine brush, you carefully paint his coat, leaving his chest and the tip of his tail white. You give him a small black nose, and you dot his eyes with glossy black paint, making them shine with intelligence and life. Your father, meanwhile, takes the newly sewn body and quickly rigs the simple controls, attaching the strings that will move the head and the front paws. In less than an hour of focused, collaborative work, the new puppet is complete. He is no longer just a carved head. He is a fully formed character, ready for the stage. As dusk begins to settle, casting long, soft shadows across the village square, you and your family move into the inn's courtyard to set up your theater. It is a small, portable stage, a Gukkastenbuna or peep show stage that your father can assemble in half an hour. It has a wooden frame, a painted backdrop of a whimsical forest scene, and a small red velvet curtain at the front. Your final task is to set up the footlights, a row of small oil lamps placed along the front edge of the stage. Their flickering light will illuminate the puppets from below, making them seem magical and alive, and casting long, dramatic shadows on the backdrop behind them. As you work, the villagers begin to gather. The news of a puppet show and a brand new story has spread quickly through the small community. Children, their faces scrubbed clean after their supper, sit cross-legged on the cobblestones at the very front, their eyes wide with anticipation. Behind them, their parents stand, talking in low, happy voices, enjoying this rare and welcome evening's entertainment. The innkeeper, Herr Schmidt, stands in the doorway of his inn, a proud smile on his face. Finally, everything is ready. The three of you slip behind the small stage. The space is cramped and dark, smelling of canvas, lamp oil, and old wood. The puppets hang in a neat row from a wooden rail, silent and ready, their strings untangled. This is your secret world, your backstage. Performance historians of the future will debate the fourth wall conventions of these early puppet shows, but you know that while the audience can't see you clearly, they are aware of your presence. It is a shared secret, a willing suspension of disbelief where the whole village agrees to believe in this magical world for a little while. Your father takes his place in the center. He will be the narrator and the voice of the fox and the baron. Your mother takes her place on one side. She will voice the baron's wife and the other villagers, and you take your place on the other side. Your role is small, but important. You will create the sound effects, and you will operate the chickens. Your father strikes a small brass bell. Ding, ding, ding. The chatter of the crowd dies down. The show is about to begin. He pulls the cord, and the small red velvet curtain sweeps open. He begins the story, his voice rich and full of character, drawing the audience in. And then the new puppet makes his first entrance. Your mother hands you the fox, and you gently guide him onto the stage. He looks magnificent in the flickering lamplight, his newly painted coat glowing, his bushy tail held high. A murmur of delight ripples through the crowd. The story unfolds. You watch, mesmerized, as your parents bring the tale to life. They are masters of their craft. They make the small wooden figures move with such life and personality that it is easy to forget they are not real. The highlight of the show comes when the clever fox decides to trick the baron with the help of Kasperle, your family's beloved trickster puppet. Kasperle appears with his famous preacha, or slapstick, a paddle made of 2 pieces of wood. He uses it to create a series of loud, comical slapping noises as he pretends to fight the baron's guards, distracting them while the clever fox sneaks past. The children in the audience shriek with laughter at the slapstick's loud smack, the sound echoing through the quiet village square. The show is a triumph. The new story is a perfect fit for your family's troupe, and the clever fox is an instant star. The villagers love the story of the small, clever hero outwitting the powerful, grumpy baron. At the end of the show, when the fox has returned all the chickens and the baron is left sputtering in his castle, your father has all the puppets come out to take a bow. The applause from the small crowd is loud and heartfelt. You make the clever fox take an extra special bow, and a group of children at the front cheer for him. You look through a crack in the curtain and see the old innkeeper, Herr Schmidt, clapping his hands together, his face beaming with pride. Your father pulls the red velvet curtain closed. The performance is over. Behind the small stage, the three of you are tired, but your faces are flushed with the unique, electric joy of a successful show. You have taken a simple story told to you just this afternoon, and you have turned it into a shared living experience for an entire village. The newest member of your wooden family has been welcomed into the world with laughter and applause. The sound of the villagers' applause fades into the cool night air, leaving behind a happy, ringing silence in the courtyard. The last of the families have wandered home, their children sleepy and dreaming of clever foxes. The show is over now. The quiet, careful work of packing up begins. It is a ritual you know by heart. The reverse of setting up the oil lamp footlights are extinguished one by one, their warm glow vanishing into the darkness. The small, portable stage is dismantled, its pieces fitting neatly back into a long wooden box. And most importantly, the puppets are put to bed. You and your mother carefully untangle their strings and lay each one back in its straw-filled compartment in the great wooden chest. You give the new fox puppet, the hero of the evening, an extra gentle pat before you close the lid. Your father places the ghost light lantern on top of the chest, its single, steady flame standing guard over the sleeping troupe. As you are loading the last of the equipment back into the wagon, the innkeeper, Herr Schmidt, comes out from the inn, his broad face beaming with delight. "Wonderful!" he booms, his voice a happy echo in the quiet courtyard. "Simply wonderful. You brought my old story to life. You made the fox even more clever than I remembered." Your father smiles and bows his head slightly. "The story had good bones, Herr Schmidt. It was a pleasure to give it a voice." "Nonsense," the innkeeper says, waving a hand. "It was a gift, and so you will take no payment from me for your stay. The show was more than enough, but you will not go to sleep with empty stomachs. My wife has kept a pot of soup warm on the hearth for you. Come inside." This is the nature of your family's life, a life that echoes the old traditions of the Wandergesellen, the journeyman craftsmen who traveled the land for centuries. You trade your skill, your art, not always for coin, but for the simple, essential currency of a hot meal, a safe place to sleep, a bit of hay for your horse. Cultural historians of the future will debate the complex social rules of payment in kind in these rural economies, but you know it is something much simpler. It is a transaction of the heart, an exchange of hospitality and gratitude. You follow Herr Schmidt into the inn. The main room, the Gaststube, is empty now, its chairs stacked on the tables. He leads you back into the inn's kitchen, a large, warm, low-beamed room that smells of wood smoke, roasted onions, and beer. A fire still glows warmly in the massive hearth, and the innkeeper's wife, a kind woman with flour on her apron, greets you with a warm smile. She ladles 3 large steaming bowls of soup from a black iron pot that hangs over the embers. It is a thick, hearty lentil soup, rich with pieces of smoked sausage and carrots. She cuts 3 thick slices from a dark, crusty loaf of bread and places the bowls on the scrubbed wooden kitchen table. The 3 of you sit at the table, your bodies weary from the long day, and you eat. The soup is hot, savory, and incredibly delicious. It warms you from the inside out, chasing away the last of the evening's chill. It is the most satisfying meal you have ever tasted. You eat in a comfortable, tired silence. The only sounds the scrape of your spoons against the bowls and the soft crackle of the fire. When you have finished, the innkeeper's wife refills your bowls. As you eat this second helping, the conversation begins to flow. Herr Schmidt, his heart opened by the success of the show and the warmth of his own kitchen, begins to share more stories. He tells you a tale about a mischievous water spirit, a nix who lives in the stream you camped by last night. He tells you a funny story about a baker who tried to bake a loaf of bread as big as a cartwheel. The kitchen becomes a small, warm cocoon of stories, a place where the old tales are passed on in the soft, flickering firelight. When the soup bowls are finally empty and your eyelids are growing heavy, the innkeeper stands. "The hay in the barn is fresh and sweet," he says. "Come, I will show you to your beds." He takes a lantern and leads you out of the back door of the inn, across a small yard to the barn. He slides open the great wooden door, and you are greeted by the warm, sweet, earthy smell of hay and of the sleeping animals within. You can hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of the inn's 2 dairy cows, and the occasional rustle as one of them shifts in her stall. In a large, empty stall at the back of the barn, the innkeeper has prepared your beds. It is a mountain of clean, fresh, fragrant hay piled deep and soft. He has laid 3 simple woolen blankets on top. It looks like the most comfortable, most inviting bed in the entire world. "Sleep well, my friends," he says, his voice a low, kind whisper. "You have earned your rest." He leaves the lantern with you and slides the great barn door almost closed, leaving just a crack for the morning light to find. The 3 of you are left alone in the warm, hay-scented darkness of the barn. You can hear Frida, your own horse, munching contentedly on her hay in the stall next to yours. Before you settle down, your family huddles together for a moment, as you do every night on the road, and your father whispers the simple, traditional Abendsegen, the evening blessing. "Müde bin ich, gehe zur Ruhe, schließe meine Augen zu." I am tired, I go to rest, I close my eyes. It is a prayer of thanks for the day that has passed, and a plea for a peaceful night. You burrow down into the deep, soft pile of hay. It is surprisingly warm, and it molds itself perfectly to your tired body. It smells wonderful, like a whole summer of sunshine and sweet grass. You pull the rough, clean wool blanket up to your chin. You are not in your own familiar bunk in the swaying wagon. You are still and safe and rooted to the earth. The story of the day is complete. You have traveled, you have worked, you have created, you have performed. You have taken a gift, a story, and you have given it back, transformed into a new kind of magic. The memory of the day begins to soften now. The faces of the laughing children, the clever wooden face of your new fox puppet, the taste of the hot, savory soup. It all dissolves into a single, overwhelming feeling of deep, warm, and peaceful contentment. The gentle sounds of the barn, the soft breathing of the cows, the rustle of the hay, become a final, gentle lullaby. Let that feeling of being safe and warm and perfectly at peace in your soft bed of hay be your guide now as you leave the small German village behind and drift slowly, so slowly, into the deep, quiet, and well-deserved country of your dreams.